Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am not here with Geeky Sparkles today. I think this topic bored her. We're going to talk about Joe Rogan, Spotify, boycotts, content warnings, and stock. They all sound very exciting, don't they? Yeah, they do. So we're going to talk about the situation with Joe Rogan on the receiving end of yet another call for cancellation. This guy, it's like every other week. This week's flavor is they want to throw content warnings on his shows because of alleged COVID misinformation. Neil Young pulled his music off of Spotify. And crickets chirped. I mean, I like Neil Young's music, but it didn't lead to the massive backlash that I think they were hoping for. I think that some of the people that were rallying behind Neil Young were hoping that like every artist in solidarity would break their contract with Spotify or something and finally get rid of Joe Rogan. In fact, Spotify employees have been trying to get rid of Joe Rogan for years, for many reasons. Before any discussion about the vaccine and COVID and all of that, they were trying to get rid of him. So this is just another way, in my opinion, that the same people that are angry that this guy is on the platform at all, that he's been platformed at all, and he is currently, I believe, the world's most popular podcaster, multi-millionaire, right? But they want him gone, and they're going to use every trick in the book to get rid of him. Now, I want to disclaim this video before I get into it any further. I'm just a random dude on YouTube. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. Therefore, this video is not going to be about, the vaccine, the fors or the against. That's a totally different discussion. That one's on you. I'm going to talk about Joe Rogan and yet another cancellation attempt and how he's basically had to walk it back a little bit because Spotify got in some pretty big trouble, right? Neil Young pulled his music down. The stock dropped, and it's actually back up now. By the way, it's doing better. I mean, everybody's stock dropped, but my God, the media was making such a big deal about the stock drop. Oh my God, they lost billions of dollars because Neil Young pulled his music off. It's like, no, I think they were worried. Well, one, I think it dropped because all the stock was dropping. The market's not doing too hot right now, right? And two, I think that investors were worried about there being a bank run. Like if Neil Young had pulled his music off of Spotify, how many other people are going to pull their music off of Spotify? Is it going to be this, massive domino effect? And I think it was just like Joni Mitchell and a couple other podcasters. Like, who gives a shit? Didn't have the effect that I think people were hoping for. And again, I think there's more to it than just, people disagreeing with Rogan putting out the information he's putting out there and platforming the people he's platforming. I think they've been trying to get Joe Rogan ever since Spotify basically told salty employees to go lay down, go find another job if they didn't like Spotify. And that just won't do because in the current climate, the employees think they dictate the business. They think they are, even if you're working in like the packing plant or something, that's your job to tell management what they should be doing in terms of the product that the company produces. And it was a very public dressing down, I think, of Spotify employees. And it was kind of the perfect storm, too, because the media hates Joe Rogan beyond the vaccine stuff, right? Take that out of the equation. They hate this guy because he's got way more eyeballs and ears than most of their platforms do right now. The guy is huge, and you don't have to agree with what he says. I watch him every once in a while. I don't, but he's huge. There's no arguing that Joe Rogan is huge, and he is a threat to mainstream media because he kind of came out from outside the system. So you're going to get this collusion going on, which we've talked about multiple times with journalists and media outlets and trying to deplatform people they don't like. It's kind of hard when the guy you're trying to deplatform is a reason that a lot of people signed up, for the platform, kind of like Dave Chappelle too, right? You don't have to like him. You don't have to agree with him. But it would be a really stupid business decision to get rid of him. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about it from that angle. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 256,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. Greatly appreciated. We don't talk a lot about the Joe Rogan situation because, like I said, I don't really watch him that much. I hear things about him. I know, I was kind of appalled, regardless of what you think about his opinions, that on Twitter they were, when it turned out that he had COVID, people were openly wishing for his death. Of course, they did this with Donald Trump too. Anytime anybody you don't like gets sick, of course, you can't just disagree with them. You have to wish that they die, right? Because that's a civil thing to do. That's what the good guys do. The good guys wish you death. I was appalled. I was like, holy shit, people. Like, you don't have to like the guy. You can disagree with the guy, but God, you actually want him dead? What the hell? Anyway, this is coming from Engadget. Rogan is walking it back, right? Joe Rogan apologizes to Spotify over backlash and promises to balance things out. This is probably because of the pushback, right? Content advisories, warning, Joe Rogan may trigger you, and of course, the stock thing, but stock is back up now. Anyway, he said he'll try harder to get people with differing opinions on. Shortly after Spotify announced that it would add a content advisory to COVID-19 podcast episodes, Rogan has issued his own response to the controversy. In a video upload to Instagram, he apologized to Spotify for the backlash that saw Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, and other artists, none of them really that notable, remove their music from the platform. He also defended his decision to book controversial guests while promising to balance things out with differing opinions. Some of my ideas are not prepared or fleshed out because I'm literally having them in real time, but I do my best and they're just conversations, and I think that's also the appeal of the show. No, current year, everything has to be scripted. You have to be given the script to work from, he said in the video. It's one of the things that makes it interesting, so I want to thank Spotify for being so supportive during this time. And I'm very sorry that this is happening to them and that they're taking so much from it. Talking about some of his controversial guests, a couple of doctors making claims about COVID. Again, I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I'm just some guy on the internet disclaiming that. But, apparently those shows are out there. You can listen to them or not. Sometimes they tend to disappear. It depends. But they'll have disclaimers on them from now on. In his video, Rogan said those guests are highly credentialed, very intelligent, very accomplished people, and they have an opinion that is different from the mainstream narrative. I wanted to hear what their opinion is. He also disputed the episodes being labeled misinformation, saying that many of their opinions are shared by mainstream listeners. It's really, interesting if Hollywood celebrities parrot, old data, and as this pandemic wears on, it seems like more and more information comes out, and sometimes people start parroting information from like a year or two ago. And they're not labeled as giving out misinformation. I'm just saying, I think it needs to be addressed evenly. We know that's not how these things work. We know that's not how it works. Rogan has drawn criticism for spreading misinformation. Yes, people wanted him gone. He said he's not a doctor. He's not a scientist. I'm just a person who sits down and talks to people and has conversations with them. Yeah, so people are angry that he's platforming doctors with differing opinions. They're angry he didn't die. I'm still shocked by that one, but I shouldn't be. I've been on Twitter long enough to see the change in the last 4 or 5 years. But this one I think is really interesting. This is coming from The Wrap. Rogan blames disparaging media for distorted perception of his podcast. This is nothing new. Now, you take COVID out of the situation. You take it out of the conversation completely. And before that, they were trying to cancel him. It's just the latest gotcha, I think. That's my personal opinion. And I do think that there is some collusion with the media. There's some collusion with salty Spotify employees, maybe, that they don't want this guy platformed. And it goes beyond just, perceived medical misinformation. They just don't like the fact that this guy has so many followers, and a lot of the people he puts on his show are wrong-thinking individuals. Rogan released a 10-minute video defending himself Sunday. This pressure mounts against him and Spotify. He said, the problem that I have, this Rogan's words, not mine. The problem I have with misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. That is actually true. That is true. Again, as the pandemic wears on, as, there are new variants and, new information comes out. And yeah, there are celebrities that are still out there, other people on Twitter, running with narratives from a year ago. And it's like, no, actually, the CDC now says this. I wish they'd make up their mind. I really wish they would, but whatever. He said the Joe Rogan Experience might have a distorted perception of him, people who don't listen to him, based on sound bites or based on headlines of articles that are disparaging. And that's the thing. They've been out to get Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan knows they're out to get him. And honestly, if push comes to shove, because Spotify is a business, they're going to let Neil Young go because who gives a shit anymore, right? I mean, who gives a shit about Neil Young? They're going to let him go because they know a lot of people are listening for Joe Rogan. Agree with him or not. But just to go back to this narrative right here. Stock is dropping off a cliff. Everything is awful. No, it's rebounding. Actually, this is coming from an investment research, Schaefer's research. Shares of Spotify are up 8.9% to trade at 189.33 following the streaming platform's decision to create a COVID-19 information hub in response to controversy surrounding alleged misinformation on Joe Rogan's podcast. Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, two artists that were big in their day and nobody really gives a shit about now, but they've taken a stance against Rogan's spreading of misinformation, both pulling their content from Spotify, and nobody noticed. Also giving Spotify a stock boost today is a bull note from Citigroup, which upgraded the shares to buy from hold. The firm cited Spot's attractive entry points as well as its potential for modest subscriber growth, though it did lower its price target to $240 from $275. Ahead of today's coverage, the brokerage bunch was extremely optimistic on Spotify stock. In fact, 12 of the 18 covering analysts rated the equity a buy. So this is a thing. They were, again, I think people were afraid of a bank run. I think they were worried that, beyond Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, that bands, groups, performers that actually mattered would start pulling their content off of Spotify. And that did not happen because it is the place to be. And, a lot of people share a lot of platforms with people they disagree with. Doesn't mean you should nuke yourself. Just because you don't like NFTs and crypto doesn't mean that you should blow yourself up and stop using Kickstarter. I'm just saying, little things like that eventually you can protest yourself out of work because the world marches on and, sorry. Just get out of here with the hippie bullshit, right? Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.